Okay, Dan, welcome to the Rule Breaker Studio. We're super excited to chat with you today. We'll jump right in. If you want to give us just the lay of the land, what's going on in your world, and what do you want to tell us about as far as from a nursing perspective?
Well, I'm super excited to be here. I love both of you, and I want to have chats about breaking rules because that's been my whole career. So I continue to try and break as many rules as possible. But lately, yeah, I've just been wrapping up the year end at my Kaiser job and doing some speaking stuff and planning for next year about what's going to go on there and all the trips and great work that's going to be happening out in the world. So yeah, just kind of wrapping up 2024.
Okay, so what was the most impactful thing that came out of 2024 for you?
Ooh, that's a great question. I would say, we brought in around 900 residents to Kaiser Permanente for the first time in its history. So that's a huge accomplishment. I'm really excited about that. The team's done some really great work. Um, and then Gosh, I don't know. I helped Christy Zuber get into the academy. That was kind of cool. Sponsored her, and she got inducted. I got to speak at some really cool conferences like ANPD and travel all over the country doing some of that stuff, which I really enjoyed. So I don't know. It was a good year.
Yeah, we missed you at
Yeah.
AONL this year because you were over there at AMPD, but I would give it to you. That's my heart and soul too. I love it. It's a major conflict. I hope they're listening out there, and please
Mhm.
don't overlap those again.
Yeah, I booked my trip to AONL, so I will be there. I will be in Boston. I get to go to Boston twice. I'm speaking at Brigham and Women's in October as well, so I'll be out there. And then I get to do AWON this year too
Oh,
in Orlando. So
wait a
I'll be
minute.
out there.
A1, like the mother baby story I've heard about you breaking rules back in the day.
Yeah, you wanted to the rule. I don't know if it's a rule breaking, but in nursing school, I failed. I failed my women's health rotation in my second semester, and so there was only four tests in that whole semester, and one of them was women's health OB. And I went to my rotation. It's at the county hospital in Phoenix, Arizona, and I couldn't go in any rooms. Like no one let me in. And so I didn't. I got to see one vaginal birth. I got to see one C-section, and then I sat at the nurse's station looking at the monitor all the time. And for me, I have to be able to like apply the content in real life, or I can't figure it out. And so I failed it. I got a 72%, I think, on that test. So and 77 was passing. So the rest of that semester, I had to get 95 or above on my test to pass the class. And I did.
So, is your keynote going to be look at me now?
Yeah, I
Exactly,
was
that's
good.
what I was getting ready to say. This is our conversation right now,
Yeah.
inspiring up and coming nursing students who failed out that you can still go get your PhD, you can
Hmm.
still go and hold national workforce positions and lead innovation and do all the things, and don't worry that you had to repeat one semester of nursing
Yeah,
school.
I didn't have to repeat it. I just had to do really, the rule breaking thing in nursing school, we had our pharmacy faculty. She was great. She was this really experienced nurse. She was awesome. Dr. Susan Stillwell. She's retired now, but there were six guys in our class, and five of them sat in the back corner together, and we would talk and disrupt and not pay attention and all the things that we would do. And we got pulled in the office once, and we were called the vortex of failure. That's what she called us. She said, "You are the vortex of failure. Like if you continue to do this, nursing schools will be really hard." And we're like, "Yeah, whatever." And then I failed that that test. And then I said, "Well, I guess I have to change things." So I sat directly in front of I sat in the front of the class. I took notes. I focused. Just had changed my whole study habits and everything, and it did okay. So it was an impetus for change, but definitely broke lots of rules.
That's funny. Okay, so I have a question. So I met you while I was at the AONL fellowship, which is where I met both of you all.
Mhm.
I'm thankful for the opportunity. And I know you as like the voice of nursing innovation, really the voice of healthcare innovation, because I feel like you talk so much more than just nursing. So I wondered if you would share with us like the things that, number one, what are the top three things that you saw out of 2024 that you think will carry over into 2025? And what are at least two things that you think should die from 2024?
The celebration of Florence Nightingale as the innovator extraordinaire of nursing should die. I saw another thing. I think it was by ANA, actually. Jennifer Menzik posted it, and I have to talk to her about it. But she asked, what is the symbol that represents nursing? And it was like an oil lamp and a cap and a traditional uniform. And then it was the M medicus, the snake wrapped thing that,
Yeah.
And I posted, I said, none of these. None of these represent nursing. Like, can we get away from the freaking oil lamps and stuff? Like, come on. We may end up there if we have nuclear war or something, but like right now we have electricity. Can we at least like have an electric lamp? I don't know. Like, how do we evolve? So I think we need to disenthrall ourselves with the past. Just a little bit. I think we need to honor it and learn from it and respect it. But like, it wasn't great. I was at the Academy too. And they were doing the Living Legends Awards. And there was a nurse who worked with the Black Angels around tuberculosis. And there's a book about it called Black Angels. And she was like, we were put in this situation because none of the white nurses wanted to work in the they didn't want to work in the tuberculosis clinic, hospital. So all the Black nurses were there. And guess what? We worked with this physician. We created the cure. Like, honor that. But like the whole way this happened was completely horrible. And so anyway, I think we just sort of need to learn from that and move forward. So I would say that needs to go away. From just an innovation standpoint, I mean, the AI everything, which is sort of annoying at this point, but I think AI does have a huge opportunity to support nursing. In 2009, we did Marilyn Chow and Ann Hendricks did a study called the Time and Motion Study. It basically found upwards of 30% of nurses' time is hunting and gathering information on a shift. Like, that's what AI does. Like, it hunts and gathers stuff for you. So if we can give back 4 hours of a 12-hour shift to nurses to do real work that matters and get breaks and relax and connect with patients, then I'm all for that. I think we need to get rid of the hype, though. There's a lot of hype. And I don't know if you look at, I won't name names, but there's some companies out there saying they can replace nurses for $9 an hour. This other one just said physicians are spending 3 hours a day on their AI system, which is second most to the EHR. Like, those aren't metrics that matter. So these tech bros need to sort of figure out the impact to actual healthcare outcomes rather than how many clicks they get within their system.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
Sorry to interrupt. I just have a question or a follow-up, maybe comment question. I'm not sure what it's going to end up being. So when I hear you say like AI everything, which I mean, we're all seeing that. Like, we're seeing people who are, claiming to be experts and all that kind of stuff that may not necessarily be there just yet. But my question is, like, I'm encountering a lot of resistance. So even when it comes to just like that, like the education system, like, I mean, I have a 6-year-old. She goes to a STEM-based school. She's, had her own laptop since she's been in kindergarten, and they're doing everything. Homework, everything is on the computer, right? She's a kindergartner, now in first grade. And I am encountering a lot of resistance when it comes to how we do publishing. How can we editing articles using AI? Just simple things that we definitely should be able to embrace as part of our ever-changing, ever-evolving landscape. Mm-hmm. I feel like it starts with education, right? Like, it starts with how you embrace it there, how it translates into practice. But what are you seeing? I know you operate, kind of in both sectors of the world, as far as from a health system and an education standpoint. What are you seeing? How are we navigating that embracing instead of the resistance, or how are we not, and how can we?
Yeah. I mean, I think the reaction I've seen from nurses is a gut reaction. Like, this is going to take something away from me or make it or be unsafe. And so there's a natural reaction to say, I need to learn more. Let's like stop the horse here. And I respect that. I think that the generally available tools right now are not good enough. They're not clinical grade. And if you're using ChatGPT to create a care plan and look up your drugs, you're putting yourself and your license at risk, right? So I think we need to have a healthy skepticism there. But I don't think we can stop it. And so I think we have to learn more about it. So, I was just at AACN, the Association of Colleges of Nursing in New Orleans. And I moderated a panel or a fireside chat with a physician who wrote a book called Future Care. And I asked the audience, I said, how many of you use, and there's about 900 faculty there. I asked, how many of you use AI in your classroom? And I would say a third probably rose their hand, a third of the tables. And I was actually excited about that. So, they do chat GPT stuff and they really looked at it when I talked to them. They look at it as another source of evidence. So it's not, you don't have to change your curriculum to add it. You have to appraise it like you would an article, like where's the references? Is this something that makes sense? How do I validate that this works? I think we have to look at it like that. And then it makes it a little bit easier to adopt because then we're using our critical appraisal instead of just blindly accepting what the machine has to say. Yeah. From an education standpoint, we're using AI with our residents right now, our nurse residents. So we use HealthStream. They have a tool called Jane AI, and it helps them with like case. They have to go through a clinical case and use natural language to type to it, and then the AI adapts to what they wrote and assesses what their plan is, tells them how on track they are. The nurses love it. Like it's an adaptive learning platform that meets them where they are, allows them to use natural language instead of multiple choice tests, which is way more clinically relevant. And we're seeing really great outcomes. We're doing a study right now on confidence and competence of our new grads. And so when that's out, I share the data, but just from an adoption standpoint, they love it. And then when I talk with our nurses on the front lines about AI and the tools, and you can look at the Google keynote from a retinal scan. Now you can get all the vital signs, predict their age, their blood pressure, the A1C. Why wouldn't we want something like that? Like, right. You still want to pull around the stupid vital sign machine and strap it in? You can't find it and strap it on somebody and wait 20 minutes for it to give you a reading that isn't correct? Or would you retinal scan somebody and instantly you have your triage done? Right. Like for me, I would want a retinal scan. So I think we just have to be open to the possibilities and sort of, be skeptical, but also don't reject it.
I love what you said about just the nurses are afraid we're going to take something away. Oh my gosh, can we please take something away? All we do is take on more and more and more, right? But rightly so, like you said, am I going to trust that you can scan my retina and get all of that? Probably not straight out of the gate. But it brings up something, and I try to quote you on this more than you will ever know when I'm working with leaders across the country. And I'm hesitant to say it. So I want you to help me explain it here, because Alyssa talked about the resistance that's happening in the adoption of this. And I have to tell you, I'm never writing a position description again without AI. Mm-hmm. I'm never doing an evaluation, an abstract, any of that. But I love what you said about critically appraising. But what I try to articulate that you say so well, the number one barrier to innovation is the nurse manager.
Yeah.
And I hate saying it because those are my core of why I get out of bed every single day. But I wonder if you would explain that so that I don't botch it every time, because it aligns perfectly with what we're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, and so this is a data point from a study that Dr. Bern Melnick did on the adoption of evidence-based practice. And so what I did is I said, evidence-based practice is implementing something new into a system. You can take the same sort of principles and apply it to innovation. They're very similar. So, so what she found is nurse managers were the number one barrier to the adoption of evidence-based practice. And if you think about it, it's because their job is not to change. The nurse manager's job is not to change. Their job is to get staff there, to make sure patients are happy, to make sure, the physicians are rounding, to make sure supplies are there, the lights are on, whatever's going on. Their job's not to go disrupt the entire workflow one day and change stuff. Everyone would hate them. And so, they're incented to stay in this sort of operational mindset, this day, deal with the day. And because of that, when nurses or others go to them as their direct line manager and say, hey, I have this great idea, of course, the first thing they're going to say is, well, that's going to impact all the work that I'm paid to do. No, I'm not going to do it.
Right.
So if we know that, though, then we have to stop setting up the managers to fail. Either we don't let the managers be the no person right away. They can be a stakeholder in the game, but they're not the sort of gatekeeper. And then we also need to make sure our managers know that, and we can develop their ability to assess ideas and get them connected to the right people rather than having to feel like they have to own all of this stuff that's coming from their teams as well.
Yeah. Oh, I totally get it. Because you think that's the hardest and most rewarding role I've ever had as a nurse manager. And I mean, think about something like people hate 12-hour shifts, but we're still doing it. I have no idea why we won't, but I imagine myself as a nurse manager and I think, you want me to, I can't even get the schedule right now. The impact that this is going to have on my world, like I'm exhausted just thinking about it. So I get it. But then I had a conversation this morning with an executive who's in operations, and one of their core strengths is sustainability and having processes and systems in place. And they're, what I've heard someone say, okay, we're a well-oiled machine. And I'm like, great, but I want to be better than that. So how do you get somebody who works that way to say, come on?
You tell them to go talk to Sharon Pappas. I mean, I'm so impressed with what Emery's doing, honestly. And I give that as an example because what Sharon's doing is she's changing the system, right? So she doesn't have nurse managers anymore. She has I forget what they call them now, professional practice directors or directors of practice, something like that, PDs. So they took the manager role, the manager title completely out and said, you're a director of practice or you're a director of your unit. And so like that simple change is it changes the whole mindset. They've created a position description. They've created competencies for that role. And then they have service line leaders and they have executives. That's their 3 layers. Not manager, assistant, no, not assistant manager, then director, then assistant director, then, executive director, then VP, and then senior VP. Like there's 3 layers, and they've been very clear about what those roles are. And it opens up the door for those managers now to lead as a clinical expert and as a clinical leader rather than manage and micromanage the day-to-day work. And that simple change is help. So I think we have to do that kind of stuff. It's great. You have managers, you have manager development programs. What are you changing in the system so that they don't have to do non-value added tasks like scheduling? Scheduling can be done with AI. There's 100 different vendors out there that do it for you. Why are you worried about it? Like that should take you 10 minutes now, not 4 days. So I think we have to start just replacing the work that we know and start thinking about what is a nurse leader, frontline nurse leader, actually need to do with their nursing license. Everything else, automate, get rid of, put it on somebody else.
Delegate, automate, eliminate.
That's
And
what
I
I
love
love to say.
do only what you can do. And that is not about being above anyone else, but truly let me use my strength. I love it. And now, Alyssa, we got to call Sharon because I want to know
Sharon.
more.
I know.
Sharon, Nancy Feistreiter, they're crushing it.
I love it.
Okay, so we're coming to the tailor end of our conversation. I feel like you've dropped some major bombs on the podcast today, and I love it. So if you could break any rule in healthcare, what's it going to be?
You told me about this at the beginning and in the pre-work, and then I still don't have a great answer. Geez, I don't know. What have other people said?
Nope.
I want to break all the rules. I mean, I think the one that's been bugging me the most right now is this idea that like tech credentials from non-healthcare give you some sort of clout to create something valuable in healthcare, and you skip the step of learning what healthcare is. So if I was going to break one rule, I'd break the idea that you built something in Amazon and now you're going to fix healthcare. And so stop that because you're not making it easy and you're just creating more noise. So, work with clinical people, and your idea is not the best idea. So you got to partner with the frontline clinicians or everything's done. So that's a rule I would break, I guess. It's not really a rule, but that's what's been frustrating me lately.
So as a leader in healthcare, I can't stop those tech guys from doing that. But what I could do is not hire those tech guys that didn't have clinical and person on the board, not just an advisor, but
I think
literally
it goes back to the whole conversation, right? Like, you know, when you're talking about just even what you were saying with AI, like vetting the companies that you work with. Like, did they use a clinician to build the process? And if they didn't, why didn't they?
Yeah.
And then move on from there. So I think it's all in that clinical critical appraisal that we've all developed as a skill as a clinician. So
yeah, no, I mean, 100%. And I think we buy these things, and so we can do our due diligence and only fund companies that do great work and are doing it the right way. And I think, you know, looking at the metrics that they want to talk about too, like replacing nurses for $9 an hour, I already don't want it. Like, that's not the metric. The metric that the company that's going to win is the one that returns nurses, physicians back to the patient, allows them to have a break, takes the 36% of their time and gives it back to them in a way that's meaningful. Not how much do they use and click in the system, not how can they create an AI nurse, which is another thing that needs to be broken. Like, that should be illegal. That's a protected term. Like, that kind of stuff just drives me nuts. The companies that actually partner with the people doing the work are the ones that are going to win, not just as advisors and a marketing tool, but like literally building the system with them. That's the one that's going to win.
I'm laughing because I just think that you should be on all the purchasing committees. And when they throw out those metrics of number of clicks, you could just be, who cares?
I post on LinkedIn about one of them. I was like, the company was like, the physicians spend 3 hours a day in the system. I was like, that's the wrong metric. So now they're spending 3 hours a day in your system and 7 hours a day in the EMR. So where's the patient? And they showed a graph and they were excited about it. Oh, the user usage of our system is amazing. Like, no, your system sucks then. If you have an AI system, no one should use it. Like, no one should be in the background doing all the work for you. You shouldn't have to be in it doing it.
It's that same badge of honor. I worked 10 hours today.
Right.
Well,
yeah.
you're
Awesome.
inefficient.
Yeah. I worked 7 shifts in a row. Awesome. That was a poor choice. Like, come on, people. Like, let's use the evidence here and move forward. Anyway, that's a role. That's a role I would say. And then I think the other piece is like, we got to, AI is not going to stop. And so we got to break the rule that nurses want to stop everything new, which I think is sort of a reaction our profession has. Like, let's just embrace it and figure out how it can support our work, because our work is not optimal. It's not fun. 150% of nurses are burned out and leaving the profession in the next 5 years and blah, blah, blah. Why wouldn't we want a tool that could take that burden off? So,
well, and I always go back to, I'm a big on how nurses influence and how they influence everything in healthcare. And I think you have to embrace the AI so that you can influence it. You can influence it in the workplace. You can influence how it's structured and built. So I think it's all about nurses leveraging their influence into these various different, sectors and companies, and really using that aspect of it to help build and propel what's next to come. So
can I make one more comment? Or
yeah, of course.
So here's the thing that I've been using lately, and I have to thank my friend Rich Kenny, who's an AI expert nurse, for this slide. But everyone's like, oh, AI's, you can't trust it, it's biased, it's all this stuff. So I'm just going to read this really quick. It took 2 seconds. So AI has been called biased, right? It makes biased decisions based on the data it has. It has privacy issues. It lacks transparency. We don't understand fully where it gets its answers, and it hallucinates. But if you think about your friend Betty, who you call every time you have a clinical question, Betty does the same damn things. Betty makes biased decision making. Betty doesn't keep your secrets. Betty lacks transparency. You don't know where the hell she came up with that idea, and she probably hallucinates because she's been there too long. So AI is the same problem as people. So AI is not special. So we have to treat it with the same rigor that we would when we ask Betty the question. And so I think if we have that sort of baseline, just know AI does all the same things your friends do when you ask them a question. And so we have to just work through it. It's, again, another source of evidence. If we use that tool set, I think we're going to be great. So break the rule of thinking that AI is special. It's really just Betty down the hall.
I love it. And we trust Betty down the hall.
I know, but why?
She's lost her mind.
You know less about Betty than you do about ChatGPT. That's the thing. Like, you don't know Betty's friends. You don't know what her cat's names are. You don't know what she does in her spare time, what she reads. You don't know.
That's so true. Well,
So
my takeaway today is the vortex of failure is the pathway to insane success and doing it in a new way.
I love it. I love that. I embrace that. Go, everyone message Susan Stillwell. She used to work at University of Portland. She's in Oregon, and tell her the vortex of failure was that was a turning point in my whole career. So embrace the suck.
And I think the biggest message home is like, don't be afraid to call people out on their when they're being a hot mess.
Yeah,
So,
totally. Right. Yeah.
like, call you on
change,
it.
it could change a career. It could change a career.
Okay, Dan, before we wrap up, I do need you to help share. One, I know you have a book that just published. Two, where can people find you? If I'm going to find you, where can they find you at? Where can they connect with you?
Yeah, I'm really exclusively on LinkedIn at this point. TikTok and Instagram are my seventh layer of hell. So I'm never there, but I am on LinkedIn all the time. So find me, Dr. Nurse Dan, linkedin.com/Dr. Nurse Dan, drnursedan.com. And then let's see if we can make the book work here.
There you go.
Leadership for Evidence-Based Innovation. Our third edition just dropped. It's got awesome chapters in here about toxic leadership, about innovation. We got Joni Watson writing stuff. We got all kinds of great things going on in there. So it just dropped. And so check it out. I'm going to actually post on LinkedIn and on my website a discount code for everybody. So if you check it out, check out my social and you can get a discount on the book. And it's adopted in like 800 schools across the country. And it is the definitive guide to innovation in healthcare.
Okay, and I have a question. So I had your last book, and it was available to be read to me, like some of the chapters online. Is that the same case with this book as well?
I don't know. You can get them electronic copies of them, and
Okay.
they'll come as PDFs, and then you could have something.
Yeah,
read it
I think
to them.
on Bartlett it actually gives you the option; it'll read it. So
yep.
Okay.
So that you can buy individual chapters too if you don't want the whole book, like the Toxic Leader chapter 13. You can just buy it out. I think it's like $20. Yeah.
Buy it.
Our friend
so
Courtney
good.
Caulfield helped write it.
It's so good.
So yeah, it's one of my favorites.
Okay, well, it was a pleasure welcoming you to the Rule Breakers Club, even though I think you're the crown king. So I thank you for the gift of your time. Any last comments?
No, just go out there and break stuff. I mean, we're at this paradigm shifting moment. We can double down on the past like Blockbuster Video, or we can move into the future and be like Netflix, Amazon Prime, and all the other things that are successful. So don't be Blockbuster. That's my call to action for our nurses. Don't be Blockbuster.
Okay, and with that, we're dropping the mic.